Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Ponytails Podcast. If this is your first episode and you didn't sell books, especially, let me tell you a little bit about what we do. We interview people who sold books door to door for a company called Southwestern Advantage. And that company has recruited college kids to go sell books door to door since 1868 on straight commission and often without a place to live. That means that there's about 100,000 living alumni, and our job is to go find them, interview them, and see how that experience went for them and how it affected them in their career going forward, both professionally and personally. We just got some stories that are funny, sad, impressive, all of the mixes that you can possibly imagine because of the nature of what happens when you go and sell door, right? So, hopefully you guys enjoy. Make sure you guys follow along. If you did sell books, welcome. Hit that subscribe button or follow button on whatever app you're listening on or watching on. And hopefully if you want to be a guest, just go to theponytailspodcast.com and you can get your submission in there. My guest today is Jacob Risley. He sold for 4 summers between 2019 and 2020, originally from Parker, Colorado, but is currently living in Aurora. He went to the University of Colorado in Boulder and was part of the JYD organization, the Junkyard Dogs. Currently, he is growing his personal brand online, working with clients, coaching them on how to do the same. And he's growing on his TikTok to inspire a generation to, know and value the most important things in life. His favorite scroll is number 6. I will be the master of my emotions. And so if you want to find him, you can check out the links below. He's got his Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok on there, or you can check out the screen. It's scrolling along the bottom there, so you guys can go and get a hold of Jacob if you want to say hello or learn a little bit more about his business and what he's doing right now with his personal brand. I'm sure we're going to hear a lot about it more when we have him on. So when I come back, we will be on with Jacob. Boom, 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 boom.
Hello.
Dude, it's good to see you. Good to meet you. Good to have you on here. Thank you for coming on. This is a blessing that I get to have in my life. So I appreciate you being a part of it and helping us by being on. It's really cool. Thanks.
Yeah, likewise, man. Thanks for having me.
Dude, I love talking to book people who just got done selling just because it's an interesting take, a more refreshing take for me. It feels like I get to kind of check in and see how the company's changed since I was on there. My first summer was over 10 years ago, right? So
I was gonna ask.
It's good to catch up. Yeah, 2012. So let's just dive right on in. Usually for people who just got done selling, we'd like to jump into the origin story of how the heck you even heard about Southwestern in the first place. Who and what happened to get you to say, yeah, I'll go do that thing?
Yeah, it was, I got floated. So I was just walking to campus. It was my first year at CU Boulder. Yeah. So it was, it was unusual, but when I look back on it now, it was definitely meant to happen. And I got floated by Shane Blick, the man himself. So, I was walking to campus, walking to class one day, and I just filled out a little questionnaire because he approached me and then forgot about it. And then he called me like 5 months later in the spring. And I was like, I totally forgot that I had even done this. And he invited me to an info session, and I'm a pretty open-minded person. So I was like, yeah, can't hurt to check it out. Went and checked it out in the info session. And, I've always considered myself a pretty self-aware person. And when I was learning about all of the skills you could develop, the people you could meet and the money that you can make too, I was like, this is exactly what I've been looking for, and jumped into it. Yeah.
So what do you mean? What do you mean? What part of it made you say this is exactly what, like, specifically?
I think like so. I'm a pretty naturally introverted person, and just talking to people was not a strong suit of mine. I could still hold a conversation, but like, especially starting a conversation with someone was not a strong suit of mine. And so I wanted to grow in, especially my confidence and just being able to communicate with people and just be able to hold a good conversation, articulate my ideas. And those are the biggest things that attracted me to it. And just being around a bunch of people that were also looking to grow as well. Because that's something I'd always been passionate about. I just I didn't have a ton of friends that were in the same mindset. I only had a select few friends like that. So that's what really drew me to it. And I was like, this is what I've been looking for.
That's super interesting because the info session does talk about, at least when I was there, it does talk about how you can earn and learn communication skills, but it's not like readily explained. I mean, a lot of people say you can improve your communication skills. So was it more off of like the person giving the info session or Shane himself that you learned that you could grow that, or like where did you get that idea? Because it's not very clear and it's kind of generic to say, oh, grow your resume and build communication skills.
You know, I'm not entirely sure. I think the biggest things that attracted me to it was Shane did give the info, and he just gave off this energy of like the kind of person that I would want to be. You know, like he had a lot of things that I was like, this is kind of what I want to grow into. And I feel like they did mention like communication skills is a big thing that you do grow. I don't know how explicitly they talked about it or how in depth they went, but like I just remember that was one of the biggest things that I saw myself gaining, or at least that's what I learned throughout the interview process a lot too.
Okay. Yeah, that makes more sense because then they do go into those details about like the, you know, going to so many doors, and from that you're going to gain a ton of experience in, you know, approaching people, communicating with them. I see. And plus Shane is sharp as attack. I mean, the dude, you just meet Shane, you're like, oh, yeah, you are a confident human, not cocky. There's a fine line, but whatever that line is, he toes it perfectly, and he's so humble about being so badass. You know what I'm saying? Like, love you, Shane. Dude, that's freaking awesome. Where did you go? Yeah, that's right, sir. Where did you go your first summer? Where was that at?
I was in upstate New York, so it was a solid 30-hour drive total. Very far.
Ooh, we're in upstate New York. That was my first summer too.
Yeah, so I lived in Watertown, New York, and I sold in Oswego and Mexico, New York. So it was like right off the coast of Lake Ontario.
Bro, my Danny sold in that area also in 2015.
Yeah, you know what's funny? I actually sold over him. I remember it was this one place. I can't remember where, but when I was knocking, people were just like, "Yeah, there was a guy here a few years ago," and the people that bought were like, "Yeah, a guy named Danny Gamboa was here," and I didn't know who he was. I just knew he was kind of big in Southwestern at the time, and I was like, "Fuck, why'd they put me in this place where I'm working over this guy that did so well?"
Yeah, and he like hit more in that town. That was like in that area. That's where he like really cranked some books that summer. Where did you stay at his HQ? I think that's I don't. Maybe I'm like maybe I'm just remembering that wrong. So. But he had an HQ where he stayed at a school, and like I don't remember if that was that summer or not. But
no, I stayed with this. It was a family that like. It was just a nice Christian family. They had 2 daughters that were like younger ages. They were in like elementary and middle school. And they had hosted the year before, and that was it. So it was just a nice family.
That's nice when you have like a cool, like safe spot like that. You're like, home is nice. At least for the 3 months that we're here.
Yeah, they were great.
That's pretty legit. Did you get off to a fast start, or were you more of a late grower?
My first summer, so it was definitely took me a little bit to get it. I think like I was very consistent. You know, I was like a little off schedule in the evenings past like 8:30 p.m. at like for the first week, but I was really open about it, and they helped me get over that. But I didn't get my first sale probably until day 4, I think it was. Yeah, so it was like day 4, and it was like a week customer that was like 9 payments because I thought, you know, it was just like I went to the max, and it was funny. But they came through at the end of the summer, and they were great, and the kids were just like so grateful. It was a really fulfilling experience as my first customer. And then, you know, it was just like it was pretty average. I was still a top first year. I think I sold like 1,700 units, but it was pretty much like a constant like increase, like pretty consistent linear increase. And then I had like a little peak at like 200 units, 201, and then it was just kind of like up and down towards the end of the summer.
But that's the kind of summer that's like ideal, where you like just keep getting better and better, because it shows you that like if you continue to do this, you just get better as the years go along too, with more experience and more training. Do you remember your first customer that was strong? Your first strong customer?
I don't really remember.
That's a feeling. But do you remember the feeling of like It works. I mean, I guess
Yeah.
you probably got that from the weak customer too, but it's just funny to think about like the first time you get out of the house, you're like, oh my God, it actually I can do this.
And there was like, I do explicitly remember, I think it was like week 3 or week 4. I remember finally having the sales talk pretty well memorized at that point. And I was like, I'm starting to get good at selling now. I'm starting to get a little bit better at it. Like I'm getting the hang of all this. It's making sense. It's clicking. I'm relating with people better. I'm learning to listen better. And it was like realizing that, and like that realization was just like really nice, because I was like, okay, this summer's not going to be horrible. It's gonna, like, I never thought it was gonna be horrible, but I was like, this is actually gonna be enjoyable.
Dude, that's a big moment in your life. If you,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm not trying to tell you how your life is, but it sounds like, I mean, that's because that's kind of what you got out there for, and it was the first evidence of that self confidence that you were craving from
Yeah.
like your interview process. Is that
Mm-hmm.
is that right? Man,
Yeah.
that's a cool moment. That's a cool moment in your life. You're like, oh my God, I can be more. Ah,
Yeah.
so cool.
It was really fun.
That's so fun, dude. When did you know you wanted to come back for more? Because you came back for another 3. So what
Yeah.
happened?
So I vividly remember this. I mean, like, it was, I don't know, week 7 or 8 or something like that. And I don't know if you know Roy Clancy. I mean, people that are listening to this, if they've sold books, they know who Roy is. He's been like the number one
Uh,
dealer for the past few summers now, or 2 summers.
okay.
Um, so his first summer was my first summer, and we were good buddies when we met in Southwestern. And we were in the same org. And I just remember, like, Shane was our org leader. I just remember Roy being announced that he was invited back. Like, it was announced that Roy was invited back, and there was that, like, little presentation of it at the Sunday meeting. And I was like, at that moment, I was like, fuck. It's like, I got to work harder. I was like, I want to come back. I was like, I do want to do this again. I want to learn to lead. And then the next week, I got invited back too. And I was like, I wasn't
Mm,
really expecting it, but it was like really cool. And
yeah.
yeah, I was like, I'm definitely coming back for at least one more summer. I want to learn to lead.
Interesting. So was that also from Shane that you like gathered that from, or what gave you that desire? Because that's also unique. Like this is not something that most people experience. I'm not saying that it's a bad or good thing. I'm saying like some people are like never again, and then
Yeah.
they go and like, oh, I should probably come back again. Right? For you, were like, I'm in. Let's jam. So what stuff? What made you stick around like that?
I think I really clicked into the mentality of just like in the mindset shift with it. I still live by this today. It's just like, it's so obvious to me of like every single thing that's happening is like working for my benefit, no matter how shitty it feels in the moment. It's like, it's there for me to grow from if I decide to not play the victim to it, and I think that's a powerful thing that anyone can realize is like everything happens to you for your benefit. It's just sometimes it's hard to see it until you're like way down the line and you look in hindsight and you're like, that actually really helped me. And like during the summer, I could notice there were like times where, I would get like super emotional over something because no one was answering for like a few hours, and then like just like super miss my parents. And I just like would push through that, like decide to push through that after a certain point. And I was like, I love this. I'm growing so much and I feel it. And so like when
Wow.
when I saw that Roy got invited back, I was like, this is like the tip of the iceberg. I was like, I know there's so much more that I could grow in. I want to learn how to get better at selling. I think, I've always naturally been a leader. It's like, but my communication has kind of stopped me from fulfilling all those roles a lot of the time. And so I was like, I want to learn how to lead. I want to learn how to get better at selling. I just want to keep growing these skills. And I learned new things every single summer. Like each summer had its own big theme. So it's just like, I just realized that pretty quick throughout the summer.
But where did you get that mentality? Because that's not a natural. I mean, I don't want to say it's not a natural thing,
Yeah.
but some people don't have that ability to go embrace the suck,
Mm-hmm.
of the program. I mean, was that from like a young age? Did your parents instill this in you, or was it where did that come from?
So I think this is good little background on me. Like I said, I consider myself a really self-aware person because I spent a lot of my life just like questioning things when I was growing up. And especially when I got into high school, it was like, I had experienced like just random little thing. I had this like best friend all throughout middle school. It was a girl, and I really liked her. And then like she made it apparent we just were going to be friends all throughout middle school. And then eighth
Ooh.
grade, we dated for a little bit. We dated for like 2 weeks, and it was my first kiss. And it was like, it was a really exciting time in my life. And then we went to different high schools. And then when the school year ended and the summer happened, her parents, like, they actually moved, and like we lived right next to each other. She moved, and I knew that was happening. And then she just ghosted me on everything. And it was like, I had lost my best friend and I had no explanation why. And it was like, it was that
Wow.
kind of made me go into a low point at the early parts of high school. And then it was just kind of like, I think going through those tough situations, I didn't like being in those tough situations. So I had to learn how to look at it a different way. And then I got into psychedelics a lot for like introspective purposes.
Interesting.
And I mean,
In
honestly,
high school? This is in high school?
yeah, like when I was like 16,
Whoa.
I actually started doing a lot of drugs in high school. A lot I abused, and because I had bad influences when I got my first job, worked at a Jimmy John's, and there were some bad influences.
Oof.
Um,
Wow, that's wild.
but it was like, yeah, I got into a lot of drugs, and there were like a lot that I abused. You know, I used them to cope with my issues, like my problems, and that wasn't healthy at all. And then like psychedelics, I had this one buddy of mine. He was very similar to me, very self-aware, always questioned things. And we would just spend time together, like outside of school or like on the weekends. And like, I was never a party kind of guy or hang out with a bunch of friends. It was like a couple of really good friends. Me and him would just trip psychedelics. It was usually LSD, make weed brownies with each other once, you know,
Good times.
stuff like that. And so I just use them as like to introspect and just like learn about myself, learn about the world. And I think honestly, I attribute a lot of my early self-awareness to my use with psychedelics and just kind of how I learned to respect them, learned to respect life, learned to get more in touch with life on like a spiritual side. And so that's also why when I got approached for Southwestern and saw the info and like the whole process, I was just like, wow, I know this could help me a lot. And then I could just, I don't know. I just like when the summer came, I saw the leaders that I was surrounded by and like the kind of people that they were. And I was like, I want to grow those kind of skills too. I want to be like them. You know, it wasn't like I wanted to have everything they had. I was like, I want to live into my own version of who they are, you know?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Dude, that's okay. That's wild. Do you still use, I mean, assuming you still use psychedelics
Here and there.
today?
Definitely not as much as I used to. I tripped a lot, but I use them here and there. Like New Year's this year, used mushrooms, and I have a couple times since then, which is more than I usually would. Usually it's not that often. But just had some big life events where I just needed to process some things, and they do a good job of helping you get good perspective and helping me let go of the things that aren't serving me.
Yes. This has been a lot. There's been a like lately, especially over like last year or so, a lot. I live in Oregon too, so maybe I'm seeing this more often, but I'm talking about, I see this across the country, but like there's a lot more push for psychedelics specifically to be used for medicinal purpose and therapy. Particularly with people who have PTSD, particularly with veterans who have PTSD,
MDMA.
People with severe depression have been keen on the fact that it changes their perspective, and supposedly the science behind it. There's a Netflix documentary called How to Change Your Mind that goes into like the medicinal side of things and like what the physiological effects are of each one of these drugs. John Oliver had a bid on like why there was like a smear campaign in the 70s. And that's why psychedelics were way tabooed, and any research that was being done for medical purposes were stopped after the Nixon administration. And I'm for clarification, I have never done psychedelics, so this is not me defending it in any way, shape, or form. I'm just saying that like we've had Greta Wertz on here before. She talks often about using psychedelics, ayahuasca, to do like some self-reflection and introspection. We've had I think Jacob Meyer talked about it. Multiple people on here, and the overwhelming majority. I mean, I've also heard of some scary cases, but that's people who are usually abusing it or aren't doing like a guided or experienced like trip. But generally speaking, the overwhelming majority of people who've talked about using psychedelics for self reflection have had not only the overwhelming majority, but have had overwhelming positive reviews about their ability to reflect and understand themselves and their life. The science behind it supposedly is because it allows you to access the part of your brain that is withholding or that like traps trauma and like covers it up. So then it allows you to kind of safely access that and reason your way through the PTSD or the depression or whatever it is that's like bugging your brain out to be
Mhm.
able to do that. Now, again, I'm not a medical professional, so take what I'm saying with a grain of salt. But
Mhm.
it's just really interesting that you're bringing this up because yet another person on the show has said, "Hey, this is what I used, and it helped me be self-reflective enough to understand how I needed to change and grow." And here I am
Mhm.
now. So thank you for sharing that because that's really, first of all, vulnerable, and thank you for sharing, but
Yeah.
also for maybe someone out there who's like, maybe that's the answer for them, um, and it could change their life.
Message to anyone that is considering psychedelics: do your research and know what you're getting into first. Make sure you're making the decision because you want to, not because someone tells you to.
Right.
I think psychedelics do a great job of showing, like, pretty much presenting your mind to you. And if you have a lot of stuff you haven't dealt with, it's going to come up. So, it's like
And that can be scary as,
it can.
oh
And
man.
then those experiences that people have where they have very bad trips, it's usually because that kind of stuff comes up, or scary stuff or unpleasant stuff comes up, and then they just resist it. They just, like, they can't let go. When you resist it, it just gets worse and worse.
Hmm. So
Yeah.
what is it like? Let me ask you this: what is it
Hmm.
like when you're tripping and then like you're facing something scary? Like, is it a physical form that you is like hallucinogenic, or are you like, what do you see? What do you feel? What do you taste? Like, walk
Yeah.
me through that.
So I can only speak from my experience. It's different for everyone. I
Sure.
think that's the beauty of
Yes,
psychedelics. Um,
absolutely.
but I've had a couple experiences. I remember the psychedelic experience that actually taught me to take psychedelics as something to learn from, not just a drug, was actually one where I thought I was physically dying. And it was like, um, yeah, it was so this was back when I was 16 still. Went to a concert. I took like a small painkiller just, to have some fun at the concert. And I was by myself, but I knew I was like, I'm going to go meet some cool people there. Met some really cool people in line. We just got to know each other really well. And then he offered me a tab of acid. I was like, sure. Yeah. I was like, I've done acid before. And I took
You were
that, and I didn't,
16.
yeah. And
Wow.
I didn't know necessarily how whenever I would take drugs, I would always do very extensive research into like what they would interact with. If I was thinking about mixing anything, I was like, make sure that the interaction's safe, make sure I know what I'm getting myself into. But I didn't know how psychedelics and painkillers interacted, which there's no harmful interaction at all. Psychedelics, especially LSD, if it's real LSD, is not lethal. Um, it You can't overdose on it. There's no reported deaths. You can go insane if you take a lot. Um, but I took it, and then it was just like at some point in the concert, my whole experience just got really intense. And it was like a lot for me to handle. I had this weird feeling like someone had just thrown up on my back on accident. I think someone had like accidentally spilled a little bit of water on me. Um, and so I started freaking out over that. And then eventually it was just too intense where I left, and like I was up in, about an hour away from home, and I wasn't going to drive home. I was going to stay with my cousin who lived up there, going to school there. My mom had set that up, thank God, because I would not have been able to drive home. And I got into my car, and then I can only describe it like everything just started to visually slow down and auditorily like slow down. It was like things were just going like, it was like, it was very, very
Whoa.
creepy. And it was like, that's where I thought I was like actually starting to die. And I almost texted my mom that that I was dying and that I loved her. And I stopped myself, and I was like, okay, let me just text my cousin. And I told him, I was like, yo, I need you to come pick me up. I took some acid. Things are going crazy. I don't know what's going on. And he was just like, he's like, I know what's happening. He was like, I kept talking, and I was like, he's like, you're having a bad trip. And he came and picked me up. He taught me to teach or take psychedelics as something to learn from. I'm so grateful for that. And
Hmm.
then like there's that. And then actually recently, this last New Year, yeah, like New Year's Eve, I took some mushrooms, and I used to smoke weed like smoked weed daily for like 5-6 years. I don't anymore. And it's like
Hmm.
I took the mushrooms, and I was having a great trip, had some amazing realizations, was just so in tune with the present moment and in the flow of life. And then I decided to smoke some weed with my brother. And if anyone's taken psychedelics and smoking weed, it intensifies the psychedelic experience a lot. And I've
Whoa.
smoked weed on psychedelics like many times. I usually love it. And this time I did it, and it like raised my heart rate a lot. And like I started to get chest pain, and it was like physical pain. And I eventually like went and laid down by myself because I needed to just relax and not have any really intense stimulation of any kind. And I laid down. I actually started to get pain in my left arm where I was like, am I having a heart attack right now?
Oh shit.
And it was interesting. So what I just laid, because there was like a feeling in like the center of my solar plexus, my chest, where it just felt like a clogged artery is the only way I could kind of explain the feeling of it. And I just laid down and I just stared at the ceiling. I just focused on my breath, lowered my heart rate. And it was just kind of like, my chest was still in a little bit of pain for like an hour and a half until I really couldn't move very much. Then I was able to move, but it's like, psychedelics are like, it's very mental, you know, it's very rare that it's actual physical danger. And so that's why I didn't treat it as if it was. But the left arm pain, I was like, okay, is this actually like a heart attack or whatnot? I was like,
right.
I'm going to at least try to just calm my breathing and calm my heart rate first before I do anything drastic. And I'm glad I did, because it went away. Once I could tell that the weed had laid off, I was completely fine. You know, I was a lot better. But I was like, that was also, I was quitting weed after that night anyways. And that was definitely, I was like, okay, this is a great reason why I don't like to smoke weed anymore. Yeah. So,
That's
I mean,
very interesting.
I have had like a feeling of physical danger on psychedelics, and then more where it was just definitely all mental, like the first time. Yeah.
Wow, dude. That's crazy. Yeah, for sure. Wow. Okay. Thanks for sharing that. I'm just always curious about what that's like.
Yeah.
Hey guys, hope you're enjoying the episode so far. I know I am. I wanted to give a quick shout out to the people that make this show possible, the people that bring this show to you. These are people who all sold books, and we're here to give a quick shout out to them in a spotlight about their company and what they're up to. So if you're interested, or if after listening to this, you're kind of wanting to know a little bit more, feel free to click on the links below to connect with these people. These are from an excerpt I have with them from a podcast that I do on the side. It's called Executive Exercises, where we take all our sponsors and they come into a think tank and share some awesome ideas about how to grow their business specifically on different topics. Go check that out. But I pulled some of the comments that they had explaining what they do and who they're looking for on their companies. And so if that sounds like you, like I said, click below. Hope you enjoy. So and so money wise, and it just seemed like it was going to be the leads, which I wanted to go back to that because you mentioned this, and that's another thing that maybe Southwestern people don't understand is leads. That's kind of like you're saying, basically, imagine you show up to a town to sell books, you send a postcard out to every single family that has kids in school or young children, asking them if they struggle with any of the following subjects, yes or no. Would you be interested in hearing about a product that might help you with all those subjects, yes or no, name and address, and then you just waited at your HQ for like a couple of weeks, and then you got in the mail like 700 people returning that postcard saying, come to my house, here's where I live. Hi, are you the mom of the house? Yes, and we've heard of you. Great.
Yeah. Is this your handwriting, Miss Betty? Yeah, that's my handwriting. Yeah. You got a few minutes? It's, again, you're not selling every single lead that you sit down with, but the leads is kind of what interested me, because that kind of anxiety feeling that I talked about at Southwestern and the anxiety I had with Family Heritage, I honestly didn't think that was going to go away, but it has. It's gone away when I sold. You know, I still had a little bit of anxiety, but after that first knock, it goes away. But much less anxiety every week because I know I have fresh leads coming in. And so even if this day doesn't work out, I know I got, typically our agents will get anywhere from 25 to 50 leads a week of people that they can go and call on.
I want people to understand what it is that you do, how you do it, why you do it, all of the good stuff. You hear a lot about coaching. You hear a lot about life coach, sales coach, business coach, yada, yada, coach.
Man, I think just to start off, like what it isn't, it's not training. It's not showing up and having somebody talk at you for 45 minutes to an hour. And like the way that I look at it is we're all human beings. We're all broken in some capacity. And we all know a lot of the people that I work with, they know what they're supposed to be doing. They're just not executing on it, or they're not doing it as intentionally as they should be. Or they're just not focused. They have like 15 different goals or 15 different things that they're trying to balance or do. And because of that, like they're not as intentional as they should be at home, or they're not as intentional as they should be at work, and they're not picking up the phone and calling people. And it's like having a personal trainer for your business. It's having intention on why we do what we do every day, and creating clarity and helping to build our lives and our calendars around what our future goals and intentions are.
That'll do for now. Like I said, make sure you click below to get some more information. And now back to the show. I've always been interested in like what that could be, and then I'm like, nah, there's too much trauma that I don't want to. I just can't. I really just can't. My life has just been riddled with like ups and downs, and like I don't know if I have the mental wherewithal to do it. It sounds scary to me, but
it can be very beautiful.
But I am curious.
But
yeah, I understand. I'm not. I know.
Good and bads. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's kind of like selling books. You know what I'm saying? Like it'll change you.
Yeah,
and it's scary.
And like any of the bad trips, like any of the bad trips that I've had might have sucked in the moment, but in hindsight, they were like the best. Like they were the times where I learned the most. You know, like the good trips are nice. You do learn stuff, but it's like the ones that are bad, if you don't remain a victim to it for the remainder of your life after that bad trip, it's like you can learn a lot from them. And that's what they do. They teach you a lot. It's just like the first time I learned that psychedelics are not something to be taken for fun. You know, like it's not like you don't want to treat it lightly. It's not like it's the most serious thing in the world, but it's like you want to respect them and take them as something to learn from, you know?
Yeah.
And that laid the framework for all the other trips I took after that, you know?
It's kind of like owning a gun in a way. It's like, hey, this could be a tool or it could be a complete weapon. You know, just make sure you know what you're doing.
Use it with respect. Use it wisely. Yeah.
Maybe don't get drunk and have it out, right? Things like that.
Yep.
Don't smoke weed and use them, right? Same idea. Wow, that's crazy. That was a good little tangent there on psychedelics.
Psychedelics.
But that's where you got your mentality to just continue to improve and inwardly inspect. So then you moved from that to now I want to grow as a leader. You come back for a second summer, and then did that go better for you? How was your leadership journey from that moment forward?
Yeah, it was good. It was really nice learning how to actually lead and coach people. You know, I wasn't perfect at it at first. I felt like I could do a very good job at it because of how self-aware I was. And I think that was a little bit of a pride thing too, but it was like, I did lead with humility, and there were times where I was like, I definitely don't know what I'm doing here. I'm just going to do my best, you know? And so I would do that. You know, second summer results wise too, worked out well. I like just under doubled. I didn't double completely, but I hit growth. And it was like the biggest thing I learned that summer was, it's actually really interesting. There was, you know, I kind of had a fear at the beginning of the summer of like, what if I did worse than last summer? And started, you know, going up, and then I just started going down. And in like week 6, I had like 78 units, and I was like, I am a B manager. Week 6 or 7, I was like, I could do way better than this. What's going on? And then Shane just taught me about visualization. And then all I did was visualize hitting PC every night that week, and I hit PC the next week. And the most I had hit before that was like 250 units. So I I went from 78 units to like 600 just because I visualized stuff. And it was just like, I wasn't doing anything or forcing anything. It was just like the universe was putting these people in front of me. And so I learned how impactful your expectations and your belief is for like what actually happens to you, especially on the book field, but just in life in general. Like if you expect you're going to get great things, more of it's going to come into your life. But if you expect that shitty things always happen to you, it's like, that's what's going to happen to you. You know, it's like whether you can or can't, you're right. Whether you think you can or can't, you're right.
And then I heard one that was like, life doesn't give you what you deserve. It gives you what you expect it to.
It's like,
whoa. I mean, I'm sure there's an exception to all these quotes, but generally speaking, like, that's an empowering statement.
Yeah. And like, it was there was so much I learned that summer because I hit PC like the next 2 weeks after that really shitty week. And then it was like up and down after that, like very drastically up and down. And it was like really hard to not compare to those weeks. Then my third summer I blew up, but like, I think as far as like that helped me really feel like I had some things that I could, because I was just like, my confidence was going down as my results were going down. I think it's because my confidence was going down and my results were going down. You know, I never got off schedule.
Ever?
On my second summer? I mean,
yeah.
Like the only time I would consider off schedule is like if I had a really, really, really tough day and I needed to stop and like cry and let my emotions out for like 30 minutes. You know, that's what it would be like. You know, it was never like, yeah, you know, it's like I'm very easy with just like letting myself feel my emotions when it's necessary. It's like I'll cry if I need to cry. I really don't care. It's like, and as my confidence went down, it was like, so did my results. And so once I had that boost in results, because I was visualizing, I felt very qualified to talk about it. And like, you know, Shane put me in a lot of situations to teach about that kind of thing. And so it was just like, it helped me fill into feeling like a leader a lot more too, because I had stuff that I felt like was very much so worth sharing with people. And yeah, I think it helped me fill into a leader my second summer.
You were leading by example, you know, right? So like, yeah, it's fair enough.
Yeah, exactly.
That you've earned it.
Yeah.
What happened the third summer that made you blow up? When was that right before the summer, during the summer? Like, was it preparation? Why that summer?
It was a lot of prep, but it was also just during the summer. I was an AOL my third summer, which was really nice. It was with Maddie Whalen. She was the OL. It was her first time OLing.
Maddie.
Yeah, Maddie's great.
Maddie.
Love Maddie.
Yeah. Who doesn't, honestly?
Yeah, seriously. And so after that second summer in my PC with Groom at check-in, I told him how I really learned that like my expectations and my belief are one of the biggest determinants of what actually happens to me, like what my external circumstances are. And, you know, everything I've really learned is just like the external world is a reflection of your internal world. You know, it's like whatever you believe, whatever you focus on is what you're going to get outside. You know, it's more nuanced than that, but that's the basis of it. And I talked to him about this and he was like, you know what books you should read? He recommended a few. He recommended like The Power of the Subconscious Mind, and he recommended Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz. And he recommended that one to me because he's like, you're really analytical. This one's more like a textbook. You'll like this one. And I read that. And it's all about reprogramming your subconscious mind for success, pretty much. You know, it's like reprogramming your subconscious mind. And I spent the whole preparation time, like I did a good job preparing, you know, learning my sales talk, that kind of stuff, leading. But I spent a lot of time prepping by like visualizing. I was in the gym every day. And when I was in the gym, I would be like pushing the bar up when I'm benching. I'd be like, I'm a 10,000 unit producer. It was just like, I would pair that with like very emotional states of being to just ingrain that shit in my head.
Interesting.
And then it was like third summer. Yeah, I just prepped a lot. And then my third summer, it's like I was in a leadership position. I led by example. I was like, I don't think I was really ever off schedule my third summer, if at all. Like if I did, it was, you know, just another moment where it was like, just needed to take a break. Like a 30-minute break to regroup myself, you know, needed to meditate for a second, you know, it's like that kind of stuff. And I don't remember exactly like where I started, but I think like my first week out there, I had my best week ever.
Right off the bat?
Yeah, it was like first week.
Damn.
And like Roy blew up. Yeah, his second summer actually. And then like third summer he did well too, but it was like
and sorry to interrupt, by blowing up, when you
like,
mean like
good production, like producing really well.
Ballpark. I mean, not that the units matter,
yeah.
but like just so because blowing up could be growth, which would have been like 3,000 units for you, or
no,
like
so I
you know,
tripled
like
I tripled my second summer. So I sold 3,000 my second summer, and I sold 8,700 my third summer.
Oh, so that's a jump. Yeah, that's a jump. Okay. So, and for people listening, like very few people have hit like 10,000 units total in a summer, especially just in the 12 weeks. Some people have done it with, which is still
18
valid,
weeks,
but
you know,
but which is still valid because that's endurance. But but it's not an easy task. I mean, if you I think you're considered high producer or like top producers. If you are above 7,500 or something, you're considered like a top producer. And of course, the record's like, for perspective, the record was like at that point it would have been like 20,000. I think it's 30 now because Peter and freak of a person, like that's next level. But but just for perspective, you know, the average first year is probably an 1,800 unit summer. So to go from 3,000 to, especially by your third summer, 87, that's a leap right there.
Yeah.
You gave yourself let's see, 32,000 to what, almost $72,000. So what, a $40,000 raise or something like that, ballpark?
Yeah, pretty much.
Over just the same 12 weeks, 3 months.
It was 11 weeks. Yeah. It was a shorter summer because that was, COVID was still a thing. We did virtual sales school. I sold in Kentucky. It was like country. Or, no. West Virginia. It was, I sold over Jacob Meyer. Dude, actually.
West Virginia is a magical place by all accounts that people have been. It's like the psychedelic of states.
It's so great. I loved it. It was just like, I was in this like massive school district that was, it was a whole county was a school district, one high school for the whole county. And it was just huge. And everyone hated that there was only one high school because it was it was just horrible high school. But it was like a mix of like, small towns here and there, but just like total country. And
lovely.
I loved it. And
by the way, and you might disagree, but turf matters. And
I don't know. I've sold very well in both suburbs and country, but I do think it has some sort of effect.
Here's the deal. It doesn't matter if I've said this before, if you know how to sell in each kind of territory.
Yeah.
But if you don't know how to sell in suburbia and you're used to country and then you like your fifth summer, you get bumped into a suburb and you're like, what the hell? It's going to be unless you learn quickly, which you can, not say you can't, but it will affect it. But if you are all terrain, if you're like 4-wheel drive type of boat person, yeah, the territory doesn't matter. But to some people it does. So in that way, I definitely agree with you. If you know how to sell in both, I don't think it matters at all. It's like, I mean, my first summer I was like straight country pretty much. Well, no, that's a lie. It was country for most of it. And then there was like really block by block city stuff, like college town. And then my second summer, it was like butt fuck country, like in the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains in Kentucky. And then I got moved halfway through the summer to take over Shane's HQ because he needed to move. I took over that. And then I was in like straight suburbs. And that was the first time I'd really been all in on straight suburbs. And it took me a little while, but that's where I hit PC the first time, 600 units in a week. And then my third summer was, it was like that mostly country with a mix of like towns here and there within it. Yeah. And then this last summer was like primarily suburbs. With like country, it was like country here and there, but it was primarily suburbs. But also too, I mean, there's like different kinds of country, right? There's like there's like big upper middle income country, which is, in my opinion, Kush. We're like, this is good.
That's what I was in this last summer. I liked it.
That's pretty nice. That's my favorite. And I did that in upstate New York in some parts of my summer, and I was like, this is my jam. But then also it underrated, but if you can, again, back to if you know how to do it, big brick, especially like big brick where it's like kind of country, but not country. What I mean by that is like, you're still not in a suburbs, but they have like little developments of big bricks scattered. That
was this last summer for me.
That's magic. Yeah. That's magic. Really. It's just nice.
I never sold in an area where I would call it like big brick, where it was like mansions, but there were definitely like, it was like country roads. And then there would be like a development, which it's just like a little build off road. And then there's like a loop and it's just like some suburb houses there. And they were nice suburb houses.
Yeah. Nicer, newer. That's
I
nice
like
too.
that.
Like that's an upper middle income. Yeah. That's money. No, I'm talking about like my second summer, I sold in Andover, Massachusetts. Like I would enter neighborhoods where like the average house price is like $2.5 million. And
no, I never did that.
This is gonna be a good, because I got good at that. I got good. That's so name driven that it's just like, and I had a ton. So I was like, this is gonna, and I had like not just a ton, but I had like the math teachers from like the private schools, all of them I bought. And so I entered these neighborhoods. And I'm like, you guys, I feel bad for what I'm about to do to your town. But this is the smartest county in Massachusetts this year, just so you know, because more people have bought books here than anywhere else in the state. Because I'm kicking some ass. So I get it. But that's big brick. That's my second favorite. But still upper middle income country. Shofo.
Yeah.
Shofo.
See, like I definitely really liked the lower middle income stuff because my third summer when I did really well, it was like that's what I was selling. And it was low middle income country. It was like the best form of income around it. Like 40%, if not 50% of the dads worked in the coal mines, and they make good money doing that. But it was like, it's not the best job,
Yeah, and they care a lot about their kids' education because they know that they don't
want them out of
like,
there. Yeah.
Yeah. They're like, we don't want you to be coal miners. We want you to go be a doctor. So go to school. Yeah.
It gave me a lot of conviction in that too. And like my third summer, I hit my best week ever my first week. And then it was like, right under, oh no, I hit PC my first week. That's what it was. And I was like, oh, this is going to be a good summer. And then it was like, up and down for the first, like the next 2 weeks after that. And then it was just like, boom. Then I followed Roy and it was just like steady increase all the way up to 1,300 units in 1 week. And then that's where it ended.
Good old Mort.
Yeah. So it was like, and then it was funny because I was really competitive with Roy. And there was a point where like I started selling more than him in weeks. And I was like, fuck yeah. I was like, I loved it. I would tell my mom, I was like, I sold more than Roy this week. Yeah,
that's fun when you have someone that you compete with and you just beat him. You're like,
yeah, because he does great over the summer. I know he's selling again this summer. He just crushes it every time. He's great.
You gotta love that consistency. And admire it for sure. So your fourth summer, your best summer was your third, or how did you do this last one?
So I decreased this last summer. Not horrible. I mean, I sold 8,700 my third summer. And I mean, I did decrease a good amount. I sold like 5,200 this summer. But I learned a
bad summer though.
Yeah, no, I learned way more this summer than I did in any of the other summers. Like this summer it was tough. It was tough. It was like
PR or what happened?
No, it was just like I had very high expectations for how it was going to do. I was like, I just hit 8,700. I was like, so much preparation, so much reprogramming. I was like 15,000 this summer. It was like at least that. It was like at least 10,000. Like that's going to be easy because I had sold 10,000 my third summer. I just didn't deliver 10,000. And it was like, so I had high expectations going into it. And then it was like not met at, like my first day was a 0 day and I was like, fuck. And it was like,
that's brutal.
I didn't let it get to like, it didn't like really, I kept myself grounded, but it was still like, that little thought in the back of your head. It was like, what if this summer's worse?
Ooh, that's tough to handle.
Yeah. And it was just like,
it's hard. My first day, my second summer was my first 0 day. And and not just a 0 day, but like, I got the cops called and we were able to avoid, like, I could tell someone was calling the cops. So I was like, we should probably go home. It was already past dark and it was like 9:35 or something. So like I hit the hour, right? But then the next day I was knocking. I finally got to sit down. It was Massachusetts. Fucking mean people. And there was this rich town and I didn't have any names yet. So I didn't know how to work it. It was the first time I'd hit, like, I'd be in like the average, big. And anyways, but long story short, I was my first sit down and I'm like, okay, I'm about to close on this. And as literally I'm getting to the close, a cop shows up and like, he's like, you got to follow us to the station. And basically I didn't arrest me or anything, but they were like, you can't, if we get another complaint, even a phone call, we're going to book you. And in my head, I'm like, there's no way I'm making that out of this town. Like it was effectively like you're getting kicked out without like officially saying it. Because there's no way someone's not going to call the cop. I mean, it's some brown dude from Nebraska is going around knocking on these big doors. Like, you're going to get called on. So I'm like, I can't work here. So, and it messed with me because then I zeroed the second day too. And I finally got going, and I eventually hit PC. But I know what you mean. Like, there's a part of you that you're like, oh, this is not the same as last year. And I sold 4,100 my first summer and then 35. So I decreased a little bit, but it definitely got to me for sure. That had a lot to do with it. And I stopped knocking so late and then it started just dwindling, spiraling. And yeah. So I don't know if that's what happened to you, but
like I stopped knocking late this last summer too. It was like, it just got it got pitch black at like 8. And I was like,
it's hard.
I was just overthinking it. And it was like, to me, it was valid. It was like, fuck, I wouldn't want some person knocking on my door at 8:30 p.m. when it's pitch black. I was like,
absolutely not.
I would not want that, even if they're really cool. I mean, if they're really cool, but it's like, it's hard to see that from first glance. At first, you're like, what the fuck is a person doing here right now?
Plus it's cold. Plus it's dark outside. So it's not like the house says, hey, knock on our door. We're cool. Like, you don't know.
Yeah. And like, I mean, there were times where I was like, okay, I've been to these people. Like, I would get good at setting night appointments, but I think what made this summer tougher was like I was much more in my head And I think I learned a lot more because of that too, because I learned how to get out of my head. But what it was is it was just so apparent to me how pretty much how my external circumstances, including the people I talked to, were just complete reflections of what I was expecting inside. It was like, it was so apparent. It was just hard to deal with sometimes, because there were days where it was just like, you know, I wasn't like on top of the world. I wasn't like in the slums. It was just like, you know, I'm ready to do this. I'm ready to go out today. I'm going to do my best. But I didn't have like high expectations and like a very good confidence in the fact that I knew I was going to do well that day. And so like there would be a period of time where it's just like it just felt like someone would answer the door and be very immediately turned off by me. Like they would answer the door all nice, and then I would start talking, and then it was like they were very turned off. And I was like, what the it was just that it kept going to the thing of like, what am I doing wrong? And it was like, it was that thought. And then there were days where I would just like, I learned to prioritize flow this last summer and like get into flow and stop attaching weight to my thoughts as much, because there were days where like, you know, I'd be having a all right week, you know, and then I would have like a random day where I would just wake up great and I would just be very focused. I was very intentional with my actions. And then I was just like so present and so in flow that like it seemed like everyone was like eating the books out of my hand. And I would have like, you know, I had this one day where one of my first years in my HQ followed me, and it was like a, you know, an all right week before that. And then he followed me, and it was like 6 customers for like 200 something units. And it was like, I was like, those are the days I miss. I haven't had one of those in a while. And it was just like felt effortless. And I was like, what is the difference there? And what I tried to do, I realize it now, is like, I tried to replicate that stuff. And, you know, everyone's going to have a different opinion on this, but the older I've gotten and the more shit I've gone through and the more I've grown, the more I see that free will is pretty much an illusion and that everything is predetermined. And it seems that like free will seems so true to us that it just meshes so perfectly with the predetermined nature of things. And so like, you know, that there could be a whole conversation on that, but it's like, that's what I've come to realize. And so it's like, I have a very clear attitude of like, I just do my best with what's in front of me. I focus on being the best version of myself, and what's meant to be in my life will come when it's meant to. And that's the attitude I was missing my last summer that I learned towards the end, but it took me a while to learn it. It was like, I needed to accept what I was going through instead of always wanting something different. And that's what made it a struggle, is I was always trying to get something else, always trying to control, instead of just like accepting what I was given and learning to flow with it a lot more, you know?
Some of that stuff I completely agree with, and some of that stuff I completely disagree with. That's really interesting.
It's gonna, yeah, of course.
I'm not saying that you're wrong or right. I'm just saying that's just not the perspective. I do think we have free will. I think this is probably saying something similar to what you're saying. Maybe it's just a different way of explaining it, or me personally. I think we have free will, 100%. However, I do think that just because you have free will doesn't mean you get to choose what happens to you. The free will doesn't come in that. The free will comes in the fact that you get to choose how you react to what happens to you. So it's both. So right. So like, you know, you can't control your PR. That's not a free. You don't choose to be. You know, you can choose to avoid having bad PR, sure, but at the end of the day, you could get just unlucky. And we've heard all the stories here about how unlucky people that like somebody else has having PR and it affects you because you're just a town over, and they think it's you. You know, right, or whatever. But at the same time, I think you get to choose, like, I think you're kind of saying something like this, where it's like, you have to accept it. Like, that's what's happening to you. And then you get to choose how you, you can't choose how to react to it until you choose to acknowledge that it's happening to you. And this is like, not just in the book field. I'm talking about life, like, right. Yeah. Case in point, ideally, or normally speaking, people older than you die. So like your parents are going to die, generally speaking, right? Some people already have lost their parents, but like, or maybe they die young before their parents. God forbid, whatever. My point is, generally speaking, like people are dying, or like life's going to hit you with some sort of sickness. You can pretty much guarantee that at some point in your life. That's because we're all going to die too, right? Or maybe it's a financial thing, where it's like you're working somewhere and the career isn't working out. Whatever. Maybe you're just not good at something you thought you would be gifted at, and because you were gifted at X, you thought you'd be gifted at Y. Regardless, something happens where you're just not good at it, and you can't choose to deal with that. until you've chosen to just be like, this is what's happening. My parents are dying, or I'm not good at this job, or you know what, I got swindled out of this money and now I'm broke, or whatever. And you go, that's what happens. Right? Because you could sit there and, like, you kind of alluded to this earlier with the victim mentality of like, well, why does this happen? Why me?
Mm-hmm.
Like, the question is, why not you? Who do you think you are that this wouldn't happen? Life wouldn't happen to you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you go, okay, that's happening to me. And then you go, okay, now based on who I am, what do I do about this? And you can totally choose that 100%.
Mm-hmm.
That's free will. And so that's what I would say. There's
Mm-hmm.
probably like a mix of what you're saying somewhere.
Yeah.
But you know, I don't know.
I mean,
just
like,
tangent.
It's interesting because I can't just like assert it and defend it completely with like clear evidence. It's like,
yeah,
I think the reason I think that, and I'm coming to learn that more, it's like, it's not like it's purely what I believe, because obviously, you know, when I feel like I'm making the free will to talk about what I'm like the choices to talk about what I'm talking about right now. But it's like, I've had some very interesting experiences on psychedelics where it was like, it was very clear to me, you know, and this is just, it's interesting to think about, but it was very clear to me that like the little random inspirations to make certain decisions were not something that I was creating. It was it was almost just coming to me. It was like, you know, and it's like, it wasn't necessarily something that I felt like I was choosing. It was just like, you know, just like a random desire to just move my shoulders like this or something. It just like came and I just did that. And I was like, I didn't think about doing that. It just happened. And it's like the same thing with the subconscious and, you know, the infinite intelligence, God, whatever you want to call it, that beats your heart. You know, you don't consciously beat your heart. You don't have to consciously think of breathing to breathe. It just happens to you, you know?
Yeah. You didn't choose to be born even.
Yeah.
Right. Like,
exactly.
if you have so much free will, why you didn't go, okay, let's turn on, come out of this lady. Let's do it.
But yeah, it's an interesting thing to think about. But
hey guys, hope you're enjoying the episode so far. I know I am. I wanted to give a quick shout out to the people that make this show possible, the people that bring this show to you. These are people who all sold books, and we're here to give a quick shout out to them in a spotlight about their company and what they're up to. So if you're interested, or if after listening to this you're kind of wanting to know a little bit more, feel free to click on the links below to connect with these people. These are from an excerpts I have with them from a podcast that I do on the side. It's called Executive Exercises, where we take all our sponsors and they come into a think tank and share some awesome ideas about how to grow their business specifically on different topics. Go check that out. But I pulled some of the comments that they had explaining what they do and who they're looking for on their companies. And so if that sounds like you, like I said, click below. Hope you enjoy. That's okay. And actually, and this is good to, I had Nick kind of explain this a little bit too, but it's because I've been in the insurance industry before. For people who are listening, like, how do you make 115% commission?
The way I explain it to people is the insurance companies we represent. So we're a broker. All these companies we work with, they know they're not really going to be making any money off the sales that I make for the first several years. But they don't care about that. They know these clients are going to be on the books for 10, 15, 20, 25 years. So they know they're going to make money over the long haul. And so part of the reason agents are able to make so much is there's all these companies out here, and they're all competing for the broker's business, because these companies don't actually have their own in-house sales force. They have independent contractors. And so if their compensation or their commission levels that they offer aren't competitive, I'm not going to place any business with them.
Hello, off schedule moment. Wanted to tell you about Southwestern Real Estate. They're 99% drama free, only 99, not 99.9. So it's a bit spicy, kind of like this episode. Anyway, they will learn you to kick ass at real estate. So make sure you guys click the link below, get in touch with them. Okay, back to work. Bye. That'll do for now. Like I said, make sure you click below to get some more information. And now back to the show.
I don't remember why.
Now on that, it's all. I know where we're coming from. We were just talking about how, like, your fourth summer, you had to learn to choose and accept the situations, and you sold less, which it is what it is. This reminds me of, we had a conversation about this on our New Year's episode, with Avery and Jacob and Naomi and Amy about if you can get lucky, if like how much of your success in Southwestern is a credit to luck, if any at all. And this is a split camp, right? There's people who are like, nothing, you earn it all, it's all you, totally what happens to you this summer is complete. And then I'm like, that can't be right, because you don't choose car troubles, you know what I'm saying? Like, you don't choose PR issues. Like I said, you can get totally unlucky with that. or sometimes there's ponies that you get lucky with. You know what I'm saying? And you want to say, oh, I manifested that, right? But it's not. It's sometimes it's just you just bumped into the right person at the right time, right? Sometimes it's, and you do get lucky. Your roommates. What if your roommates suck? You don't get to choose that, right? Like especially your first few summers. It's not like something that you're really in control of. So I think there's some luck involved, but I also think that there isn't. So all that to say is, like, for example, your fourth summer, I feel like some of that was a little bit of unluckiness, a little bit of like you needing to learn how to deal with a different kind of experience in the summer.
I think that's what it was.
Because you were working on it. And I think that's probably a lot to do with it. But then also, like, you weren't any less skilled or talented. And it's not like you can't lose skill with more experience. If anything, you got more skill now because it's a whole different scenario. So I get it. Like my fourth summer, I didn't sell that much, but on the days that I sold, man, it was like platies. Like I'm just dropping platinums back to back. Like,
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I never hit PC again, but it was like, I still got it. Like if I really, and then so that's how I knew it was my last summer, which I was gonna segue into this with that. It was like, how did you know it was your last summer? I knew it was my last summer because I go, if I wanted to do this really well, I could totally do this really well. But the key and the honesty, and people can judge me on this or not, but it's like, I just don't want to do this anymore. Like I'm not getting anything out of it. I know I can, and that's all I needed to know. So I'm done. See ya. What was it for you?
I mean, so it was interesting. I was definitely, like, when I made the decision not to come back, I was not in the best place in my life. It was like December this last year.
So this is like recently you
pretty
decided,
recent.
You better not change your mind because I've already had you on here.
Yeah, no, I've completely 180'd. Like the mission and the vision that I am committed to right now is something that I am incredibly passionate about. I am full on committed to it. I put the work in. I work about like 60 hours a week doing this, and it doesn't feel like work at all. And that's why I know I love what I do and why I'm going to keep doing it. And it's like, yeah, it's just, I enjoy it and I meet cool people every day. And it was like more of an emotional decision, but I think it came from the same standpoint. It was like, I definitely don't want to go door to door again. And maybe that's a reason why I should, so I can grow through that resistance. But I was like, I just like, I want to do something else now. It's like, I went to school for molecular biology because I had a passion for chemistry. And after my second summer, I realized I was like, I actually really love sales. I don't want to do lab work anymore. But I was fortunate enough to my parents paid for my college. So had a conversation with my dad. I told him, I was like, I don't think I'm going to use my degree anymore. And we ended up the conversation like, it's better to have it, not need it, than to need it, not have it. So I finished.
Absolutely. Yep. Especially if it's being paid for.
Yeah. And I was like, the place where I was at, it's really interesting looking at it now. Because when I made the decision, I was like, I feel like what I needed at the time was structure. And I needed to just get another job, like a new job, so I could learn some skills and eventually be my own boss in the future. Because I felt like I definitely I was not as in control of my mind as it was more in control of me. And so I was like, I just need some structure. And I didn't want to get comfortable in that structure, but I wanted to grow some skills and get some structure so I could get myself on my feet a little bit more. And then eventually start doing what I'm doing now. I didn't actually know I wanted to do what I'm doing now until there was a lot of things, but it was like, I had that trip on New Year's, and then it's just like, it's funny. It's just like, it's so much. I watched a video from a guy named Dan Coe. If anyone listening has heard of Dan Coe, you know how amazing he is. All about, finding what you love and making a living doing it. And I just thought about it. I was like, everything I've really enjoyed doing in my life and what's been fulfilling was like helping other people achieve what they wanted to achieve in their life, and just like serving other people. And I found I could do that through making my own business online, coaching and consulting, and inspiring other people on TikTok. And that's what I do now.
So I was going to say, this is a great segue into this. So I don't mean to interject, but feel free to just start expanding towards that direction as you go.
We will. But like, the reason I just made the decision to leave Southwestern because I was just like, I just felt like I needed to do something different this time. Like, I didn't want to do another summer. And when I had started pursuing some of these other things. Like I started drop shipping, but I never committed to it. So I didn't succeed in it, obviously, because I didn't even give myself enough time to succeed. And it's like, that's why I quit. I was just that's why I didn't come back for another summer. Is I just like, I was like, I want to do something different. And when I started pursuing something different, I had all this energy and it was just like so exciting, you know, and it was like new, you know, it was new. So of course it's going to be exciting. But it was just like, I had all this energy and I was like, this is the part of myself that I've been missing. And so I just like, you know, I cut ties and I still, you know, I still talk to them. I've hung out with everybody at like certain get-togethers. It's not like I don't talk to anybody anymore. It's just like, I'm not selling anymore. And it was kind of like an emotional decision, but it was like, I'm glad I made that decision because if I didn't, I wouldn't be where I am right now. And it's like, that's why I don't regret anything in my past. Like there's some shitty things that have happened to me and I've done some stupid things that like, obviously it might be cool if I didn't do them, but it's like, if I didn't make those stupid mistakes for myself, then I wouldn't be who I am today. So it's like,
yeah,
I'm glad that I did that, you know?
It's a revolving situation, right? It's like, you need that to happen to you because otherwise you'd be different. Kind of like like the day that we talked about this, your first summer when you realize, hey, you know what? I'm kind of good at this. I mean, how that moment of realization changes your entire trajectory going forward. Now, does that mean that you're straight head to the new path? No, but it definitely changes your direction, it's a small moment. It's a small moment, right? So,
and it's like every single decision we've all made in our entire life has led us up to the point where we are now. And even one of those decisions being different, we would be in a completely different spot.
Which is why I think free will is right there, because you made those choices, right?
I think
I'm gonna wear that T-shirt versus the other T-shirt could have like completely, because you never know. Like, I guarantee the reason I'm making this argument is because it's like someone out there right now, not even people listening, but in the world, and we can almost with a certainty say that this is accurate because there's just so many people on the planet. But someone out there decided to wear the red shirt over the green shirt or the blue shirt. And that's the shirt that then their spouse went and said, "Ooh, I like your shirts." And that's how they met at that one coffee shop.
Everything's after that.
And if they hadn't worn that shirt, it would have been a whole totally different life, right? So even as simple as like what you're wearing, what you choose to drink that day. Oh, that one time where I ate that food and it gave me the shits. And so then I had to like go to the bathroom and I bumped into Karen or whatever.
Yeah.
Susan, Karen, you know what I'm saying? Like every decision to go this way to the store instead of you avoided an accident. Like anything could have happened to you. Have you seen I haven't mentioned this in a while. Have you seen the Matrix, the second Matrix?
I haven't.
You've never seen the second Matrix?
I don't even think I've seen the first Matrix. I think I've seen parts of it, but I don't think I've watched it myself. I know
that whole movie is based on choice. It's about choice. Oh my god, dude! We're gonna end this episode right now. You gotta go watch.
Go watch the fucking Matrix.
Stop the 60 hours. Make that part of it'll change your life. But anyway, it's all about choice. The second movie is not as good, but there is a scene in it that I always quote, and I'm like, I think about this scene. I changed my life watching this scene. Basically, they have the most brief way I can explain it is it's the good guys, and they have to go and find something from like not the bad guy, but he's also not the good. He's like the antagonist of the story, right? And so they have to go make a deal with this person, and they have to try to persuade him to get someone that they need. Turns out they get told no, and so they're heading back out, and it's like that's what they need. Without that, they can't move forward. Right? That's the plot. And so the main character Neo asks his mentor. He's like, "Hey, did we do something wrong?" And Morpheus, the mentor, says, "No, what happened and couldn't have happened any other way." And he goes, "How do you know?" And Morpheus goes, "Because we're still alive, because we're not done, right? Otherwise we'd be dead, you know." So anyway, this is so meta, but like I'm just trying to say that power of choice, when you said every single choice you make, that's my point, is everything that's happened in your life, good, bad, or ugly, has happened exactly how it needed to happen. It couldn't have happened any other way because you're here, which is where you're supposed to be. And I believe that, but sorry to get all meta. I just love that you said that, because I'm like,
yes. I agree with that. It's like, I think then the thing to think about of whether free will is real or not, or like if it's true or not, it's like, and I don't think I have any sort of like authority to talk on this, or if we can have a very informed discussion on this. But it's like, saying that is making the assumption first off that your choices are actually your own and not just like the will of God through you, you know. And I think that's the thing, because like when I said like, you know, on psychedelics, like there's been some experiences where I could tell like I was making decisions that I wasn't choosing to make. It was just like they were kind of happening to me, and it just felt more of kind of like, you know, life, like God, the universe, infinite intelligence, however you perceive it. It's like was making those, that was providing those decisions, and then that's what was happening. So that's where I still don't understand if free will is real or not. It's like, it's interesting. It's fun to think about.
This? What about this? Chew on this one. Chew on this one, big boy. Chew on this one, bro. God or the universe, whatever, yeah. The creator, we'll just say it that way, or whatever thing, the life, the universe, gave everyone free will. But your free will ends at the beginning of someone else's, right? And so, like, for example, let's take back to the where like you chose to go left on the way to the store, even though you normally go straight. But what happens is you went left, and that was the wrong choice, because then that semi truck hit you. But that semi truck is there because the driver of that semi truck decided to go right when they normally also go straight, you know. And then, but their free will and yours then crashed into fate, which is what was supposed to happen in the first place. Does that make sense? So it's like your free will goes as far as, but because everyone has free will, then naturally speaking, and statistically, even mathematically, you can say everything that happened was supposed to happen that way, because by probability, this was you.
It's like, I mean, it's an infinite universe. Like, not only everything could happen, but everything will happen. You know, it's like,
because it has to.
Yeah,
it has to. 100% has to. Yeah,
it's interesting. So, I don't
know. Now we're like, people are like, I'm dropping off this podcast. They're like, what the hell? What does this have to do with more Utley or whatever?
Yeah.
But okay, so tell me about just to get back on schedule. We'll do this rapid fire and then some ponytails. But
cool.
Because I'm keeping an eye on the clock. It's perfect. We're on schedule.
I'm good. I'm good for talking till, you know, for another hour, but however long you can. Yeah.
I mean, we'll just feel whatever feels natural. Yeah. I'm good. I'm Gucci either way. But because my appointment canceled that I had to get off for anyway, so we're all good. But tell me a little bit about specifically what you do. Maybe someone listening wants to hire you as a coach, or maybe they want to pick your brain about maybe they want to start their own thing. Like, well, how did you you mentioned TikTok on your form that we read out. So give me like a little bit more of a hands-on explanation of what you're up to.
So it started off, so I watched a video from Dan Coe on New Year's, and I realized I was like, I've never been a social media guy. Like in the past, I was always just kind of like, you know, I'd do my own thing. I'd post on social media like a few times a year, if that, like Instagram, you know. And so I was like, I never was someone that would post religiously on social media. And then when I had the realization that I was like, everything that I've really, really been fulfilled doing in my life has involved helping other people and impacting other people. And I was like, social media is literally one of the best ways to do that in our day and age. You know, it's like you can reach so many people. And so I started a TikTok where I just would explain all these valuable life concepts that I had personally learned and just share them with other people, because I know TikTok is a place where there's a lot of people that just go on there to scroll and distract themselves from the important stuff in life. And it's like, all they do is just distract themselves. And so I started off by just explaining these concepts. And like, if you scroll down at the very bottom, it was like, I just started, I was doing face talking videos, and they were doing all right. Not many people would see them, like 250 views, 300 views, all that stuff. And then I posted that one right there where it was like picture slideshow. And I was like, because I had seen that those do really well. And it was 7 character traits necessary to realize your potential. And it was just like very important things that I've learned in my life. And then it started to do really well. It got like a few thousand views. And then over time, it just kind of blew up.
A few thousand, 185,000.
Well, yeah. And then it just blew up. It started gaining a lot of traction. And then I kept doing face videos, not much traction. And then, another slideshow, it was 3,600 views. I was like, okay, I like these slideshows. Then I made one and it didn't do too well. But I started doing this picture slideshows more. And that's actually all I do now, pretty much. Because it's like they do better.
Sweet.
The algorithm pushes them out more. And I just like the character, the like samurai guy that you see on a lot of those. His name's Miyamoto Musashi. I'm actually reading his book, the Book of Five Rings. That's the one I made. Yeah, I don't know when I made that one, but it's like just speaking to people, and I have complete trust in the fact that they find the right people at the right time. And like,
because it was your choice and someone else's not free will.
It's just like the universe will put it in front of people when they're meant to. And like, there was another one, like when you scroll down just a little bit, it's like, yeah, it's on the very left, Avatar Aang. That one did
Avatar
well too.
Aang.
Right there. That one's the best one so far. It's just stop taking yourself so seriously. And it's done really well. And it's actually given me some very real encounters with like haters. You know, it's just like people that are like totally disagreeing with you. And I learned to stop giving my energy to people that aren't open-minded at all. You know, I got into a long argument with a guy and I was like, God, this is not going anywhere. And it just made me feel so anxious and gross. But like, go to the top comment on that video again. It's like, someone said this could save a life. And there's people in that comment under that said this saved my life. You know, it's like, I was like, this is why I do what I do. Might have saved mine too, bro. We're getting there. I'm like, it's just, this is cool. It's just, that's why I really enjoy doing it. It's just like making an actual impact for people. It's like, saved me. You know, it's like just a little decision to show a little bit of kindness can really change the trajectory of someone's life. And, you know, I don't know if that legitimately saved their life or not. They could have just said that then, but like, it's better than not doing anything. And so I started on TikTok and I just share these concepts and I make at least one Avatar every day. Yeah, so great. I have it right here. I watch it before I go to sleep because it's like, there's so many good lessons in it. And if I'm listening and not just watching it to distract myself, then it like, I could feel that the lessons are very applicable to where I'm at in my life right now. It's like, so I listen to it. See, my Instagram never shows up. It's so weird whenever you search it like that. Instagram, I don't even really do much on anyways. So it's not even that important to show.
Oh, so Twitter is the one?
Yeah. Jacob, there's no dot, but it should probably still, there it is. No, that's not it.
Oh, not you. That's just sick.
That is right there. Yep. So it's like, this is where I'm doing most of my work right now, because this is like, I thought Twitter was always just like people bitching and complaining and making funny one-liners, you know. It's like,
yeah.
And then I found out there's this whole side of Twitter that's just like totally just like people geared towards self-development and bettering themselves and building a business. And it's like, I'm networking with these people every day now, and it's just great. That's a meme I made yesterday. It's great.
Fun.
Sweet. And it's like, this is where I'm building stuff, because I work with 6 clients on a weekly basis right now to help them pretty much just with like, I wanted to get into mindset coaching and consulting. But the thing about that is it's really hard to make an appealing offer with that, because it's hard to guarantee any kind of quantitative results. You know, it's like, whereas like sales, I have a lot of experience where I can leverage. And so I'm starting to position my paid coaching offer on more of the side of like helping people. This is a thread I wrote on setting goals. And it's like, I've started to position myself. If you go back, or actually if you just scroll up then go to, you know how that's like, scroll down until you see the part that says 1, or actually just click on that over the past 4 summers part right there. Yeah. Oh,
right here? Oh,
no. Okay. So like that one that's on the top right there, just click that. Yeah. This is the thread I wrote on goals. It's just 5 sets for writing goals, like 5 steps. It's like this kind of stuff. I've gotten really good at writing because of it, learning how to catch attention and keep it, which is a valuable skill, because attention is the new currency nowadays.
Absolutely. And that's why like, we are monetized.
Mm-hmm. And it's like, yeah, and so Twitter, what I do is I've just learned how to position myself really well. I help other people grow their own business. Mm-hmm. I have like, I've started with free coaching because I wanted to get experience and just making sure everything's good.
Can you hear that?
Barely.
Let me close my curtains. There's some unhoused person outside yelling. Portland. Cool. What are you going to do? Keep talking. I'll still be able to hear you, but I'm going to close these curtains.
Cool. Yeah, I started off with like free coaching, and that was to gain experience and then also to be able to help people. But in the process, I would get social proof in the form of testimonials of people saying, you know, I wasn't making money on Twitter. Then I met up with Jacob for like a month. You know, we did coaching every week, and now I'm making X amount on Twitter, you know, and I've had people that are now making money on Twitter because of some of the consulting from what we've been doing. And it's like really fun because I'm starting to get that social proof and be able to build my paid offer really well so I can leverage myself better.
So it's turning around. It's starting to pick up steam, not turning around. It's like starting to generate some tangible income.
And I've been,
and this is like a month and a half of this.
Yeah, I started on Twitter like a little over a month ago. But I started on TikTok first, and my target audience on TikTok is different than my target audience on Twitter, because TikTok is more for me to just reach people where they need it most. This is specifically to help people with their own businesses. And you know, I don't have a job right now. I'm just living off of my savings and full on doing this right now. It's like, because I'm very close to monetizing it enough to be my main source of income, where it's like, I know I don't need to get a job right now. If I just stay committed to this and keep doing what I'm doing on a daily basis, I'm going to get there.
Yes, sir.
And that's what I'm doing. And it's like, pretty much this is what I'm doing for work. And my goal is eventually to take it to the point where I have like a community of people on Discord that are doing the same thing as me, that are just like, you know, a handful of steps behind me, which is what I've done with like Dan Coe. I've mentioned him before, but like he's grown his to making, you know, like 7 figures a year on his online business. And what he does is he has this community where him and a couple other big creators answer people's questions, like people like me that are just starting off, and they get guidance and have a bunch of resources of how to do certain things. And it's like, I want to be able to have a community like that so I can help people and just change the lives of people by helping them do what they love and make a living doing it. So that's what I'm doing.
You need to start a podcast.
That's actually a goal of mine. It's not a focus of mine right now, but it is a goal of mine by the end of this year. And actually, it's really cool. I met this one guy on like through Twitter that me and him have had some conversations over like video cam, and he's very philosophical guy, very spiritual like me. And like when I was talking to him the first time, I was like, this feels like a fucking podcast right now. So we talked about it, and we're like, we both are going to get established in what we're doing right now first, and then we're going to come together, make a podcast. And it's like,
yes. Yeah. Just so you know, and if for anybody listening, we do help produce podcasts, so we are for hire on that. So if you get on the line and if it's in the budget, let us know. We'll make it. We'll hook it up for you. And you want to hear my pitch on why this is a good idea? Because what happens is Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram social media channels are a great way to blow and express your brand, like what you're doing right now. The problem is, if for whatever reason someone decides to block you on Twitter, hacks your Twitter, and you lose that momentum, you are I mean, at
that's why I build an email list too.
Exactly. So email lists and podcasting are the two ways that you're like, I still own, not to sell or to,
it's yours,
but it's not. I can still directly communicate to the people that are my community without it being an issue. Or if TikTok goes out of style or Twitter goes out of style, right, or whatever, you don't have to worry about it, and then you can use it to transfer that to the next. Emailing list and podcasting are the two ways. One, through people can read it if that's how they choose to take content, or two, if they want to listen to it, right? But if TikTok in 10 years is not like Facebook 10 years ago was cool, but now it's like, who's on Facebook really? Anybody? Like, we don't even focus on our Facebook page honestly anymore, because I'm like, are people actually even on this app anymore? Like, I don't think so. And often people are like, you should get on TikTok. But the reality of it is, it's just, if we had a mailing list, and or because we have a podcast, we can use the podcast to go, hey, we are now on TikTok. And then people go, oh, okay, we'll transition to that new app, because that's the new cool toy that we have on our phones, right? Which, by the way, we just started TikTok, but hold up, sorry. And so that's like, it helps transition out of the moving and passage of fads in social media apps. Some are here to stay, some are not, but podcasts are, YouTube is, and of course, the good old email marketing from like the early 2000s.
Of reliable.
Like, that's not going to fail. So,
and that's important too, because there's been a lot of TikTok recently about the US potentially banning TikTok. And I don't know if that's going to happen or not. But if that does,
like, what happens if that happens?
Whole audience,
gone, right?
Yeah.
But you wouldn't lose them if they were like, And it's smart to have an emailing list. Yeah. Also, it's also smart if you're trying to build a community. And this is not like me just telling you what to do. I'm saying just for the sake of the topic that we're on. Like, if you own a business and you have an emailing list, what some people do is they try to sell it, and that's a good business if that's the goal of your business. But some people don't follow you on your newsletter or on your podcast because they want to be sold. Like they trust you. So, like, depending on who you are, sometimes it might make sense if you just don't get that email list to sell it. Get that email list to have a community.
Oh yeah.
Hey guys, hope you're enjoying the episode so far. I know I am. I wanted to give a quick shout out to the people that make this show possible, the people that bring this show to you. These are people who all sold books, and we're here to give a quick shout out to them in a spotlight about their company and what they're up to. So if you're interested, or if after listening to this you're kind of wanting to know a little bit more, feel free to click on the links below to connect with these people. These are from an excerpt I have with them from a podcast that I do on the side. It's called Executive Exercises, where we take all our sponsors and they come into a think tank and share some awesome ideas about how to grow their business specifically on different topics. Go check that out. But I pulled some of the comments that they had explaining what they do and who they're looking for on their companies. And so if that sounds like you, like I said, click below. Hope you enjoy. On a note from I'm trying to think, like, if I was looking into this, and for people who are listening who might be like, hey, this actually, I want to learn more about this. What's the barrier to entry? Like, maybe I'm sitting here and I'm like, man, that sounds cool, but I don't know shit about insurance. Like, why would I want to go talk to people?
Yeah, the barriers to entry, I think, are really pretty low. Everybody would probably have a different opinion, but in terms to just be able to get out the door and go sell, you've got to get a license. I have my life and health license because you needed the health license at Family Heritage, or if you want to sell Medicare products or certain types of health products, You have to have the health side. But what it takes to get either one or both of those licenses is roughly the same. You take a study course. You may need to study for 15 hours. You may need to study as many as 30 hours. But like with Cardinal, we've got a pretty cool course. From studying to getting your license can be as quick as like 7 to 10 days if you really 15 to 20 if you're moving at a medium pace. And beyond that, if it takes you longer than that, you're just not really all that motivated to start because it's not a difficult process.
Yo, let's get off schedule one last time. Go watch a movie, or maybe you should figure out how to work at Enlight Energy. Alex Black is crushing it down there, and a former DSM, Julio Hernandez, are both running this company, and man, they are cranking 10 people on their team and growing. It's enough that Alex only has to sell like one thing every other week and make over 6 figures. So if you want to learn more about that and maybe help change the planet, click on the link below. That'll do for now. Like I said, make sure you click below to get some more information. And now back to the show.
And that's the purpose behind, like, there are a lot of people on Twitter that build email lists. Like, I'm on Dan Coe's email list, and the purpose is because you could share a lot of really valuable information. And that's why I subscribe to his email list, because it's great. He shares very valuable stuff to me for free. And then, when he makes new courses or stuff that's actually beneficial, or like he recently did a 14-day solopreneur, like entrepreneur sprint, where it was like 4 Zoom calls and like guided stuff in between. It was like, just promoting your courses and stuff like that. And it was like, that's something like when you start to create that kind of stuff, the people that are on your email list are usually there because they follow you for who you are and what you provide. And it's like, you can usually, that's a very good area to convert people as far as like offering them something that you've created for money. And if they want it, they'll buy it. And if they don't, they don't. It's like, I'm not doing that right now, but like when I have a big enough one and I actually have valuable courses and stuff that I've created, that's what I will use my email list for.
Absolutely. It's just because you own and they trust you and you built a strong community. Yeah. I mean, you got to build it with the community in mind. That's what we're doing here.
Yeah.
And that's a whole philosophy. Our whole philosophy with both the podcast production and here is like, we are building a community. In this specific Ponytails case, we're building the alumni network, right? Our community is book people that sold, but no longer sell. Not to exclude the people that are currently selling, but our main niche focus is, did you sell books at least one summer? Cool. You're one of us. Right. And so like we're rounding them up. Those ponies are out there. We're just putting a fence around it. Going, let's all come together.
Yeah.
Damn, dude, that's some good stuff. All right, let's jump into some rapid fire questions, and then, my man, we can go into your ponytails.
Cool.
Rapid fire questions. We already answered a couple of these, so I'm going to skip a couple. One of them is about territory and turf. So I'm going to start with this one. Favorite advanced sales?
Matt Atchison.
Which
yeah.
one? There's like 2 of them.
I'm trying to remember. I just remember listening to it religiously my second summer.
He talks about scooping. I'm scooping into the train.
No, I think it was like
the one he's in a vet's office. Aloha. This
yes,
is Matthew
yes. That. I think he was talking a lot about habits. I'm trying to remember exactly. But I just remember listening to it a lot. I also really like Groom's playing card analogy, I think, is a really good one to just recenter on. But yeah, I just remember listening to Matt Atchison's a lot.
It's so good. And he's fun to listen to. We need to get him back on the show. Somebody email him and say, hey, you got to get back on Ponytails, bro. Favorite HQ?
Wait, I'm trying to remember this last summer's HQ. My favorite HQ, my third summer, it was like this awesome homeschool family, like 7 kids. There was not 7 in the house still anymore, but like, there was 2 that were still in homeschool. One of them was 18. Just amazing mom. She had hosted like 4 or like 10 years in the past. But it was funny how we found her, because it was just a little off topic, but we didn't have an HQ. And then one of the first years, we were knocking, and as we were knocking, we would ask for HQs. And then one of the first years knocked on her older daughter's house and was like, you wouldn't know anyone that would be willing to host some college kids. And then she was like, yeah, my mom actually does. Her mom changed her phone number so she wasn't on our call list. And so when I called her, she was like, yes, you guys can move in tomorrow. And I was like, yeah,
great.
She was just so cool. We lived in the attic, and it was like 3 beds in the attic. It was just super nice. Yeah.
Ooh, gotta love that. That's some good HQing. HQs are blessings.
Mm-hmm.
Favorite product to sell or tack on?
Kids Platinums were my favorite package. Favorite tack on, or just like product to sell? I just really like the black books. I think they helped a lot. I really like.
What was the best black book in your opinion, or your favorite?
Math for sure.
You like the math the best?
It was just like, I would have used the shit out of that in high school, especially like calculus. Like that's why I was pretty convicted in it. Yeah,
I love the science book, like especially when they talk about all the muscular systems and the like the images of all the different systems in the body. Also, or the topic source. The topic source is sick.
Topic source is so underrated. I didn't realize how good it was until like late my first summer, and I was like, whoa, this is actually really cool.
And the topic source is good for college kids. And sometimes I would sell topic sources to families who are like, I don't have any kids around college. I'm like, I think they would like this. And they were like, hell yeah. And like, even the kids would still they'd be home from college, lifeguarding, losers.
Yeah.
And they would be like, yeah, I'd use that. Okay. Favorite overall summer?
Third.
I'm guessing you're third. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now the next one is, the next one can be in terms of units, or just like your favorite overall. Doesn't matter how much you sold. I'll let you choose, but your best sales day.
It was definitely, I know it was one in my third summer, and I think it's based on units is what I'm thinking of it in. I had I remember I ran out of black books. Like I had like 380 units at the end of the day, but I had like run out of black books, and I still had like 3 other families during the day buy black books. I was like, I'm gonna have to bring them tomorrow, and so I did. It was just
a good problem to have.
Everyone was just eating on my hands. It was like 9-10 customers. I was like, what is going on? I was like,
when you empty your car out, you're like, oh,
so good.
Damn,
I love it.
This is a good day.
I had a Prius too, so it was like when it was full of books, it was like squatting in the back, and then at the end of the day, it was like completely lifted. Gas mileage was way better. It was like, it was fun.
Good times. Oh, you gotta love that. That's good shit. Favorite breakfast spot?
This last summer, it was great. It was like this old school looking diner, and the waitresses in the morning were just awesome, and they loved us.
You gotta love that. You gotta love that. And then they'll do execs with you.
Yeah, they would always watch. They were like, and it was like the diner was just all old people. Like would go there and eat in the morning, so they would all like watch us, be like, "What the fuck are these kids doing?" Like
it's so fun. And at the end of it, like when it's like your last day, they're like, "Oh, you're leaving," and they all like pay for your meal. Yeah, that's good. You did good. Okay, last one. Best follow day.
It's hard because I know there's been like, I assume this is both either me following people or people following me.
Sure. Sure.
I honestly, it's hard to think because there's been a lot of them. I just remember when I followed Roy my third summer, I also had my best week in 5 days after that. It was just, I realized how fucking funny he is on the book field and how much he fucks with people. And it was just like, it was really funny. He would like, I remember screaming at a deer out his window, and then we turned the corner and there was a guy sitting on his porch and he just stared at us like, what was that? It was just a really fun day. Roy Clancy. Yeah.
Fun times. I love it. Okay, man. Well, hopefully that jogs some of your memory. I do have 2 in the chat that you put in as far as potential ponytails, so feel free to tell them both, or if you think of other ones. But this is where we have our best stories, or guests share their favorite, best, funniest, craziest, whatever, interesting stories. So my man Jacob Risley, these are your ponytails.
Yeah, the ones I wrote down. I mean, I think like I'll start with just like the biggest pony that I have had. It was like, I was never someone that sold a bunch of like diamond packages or like bags, you know? But I sold a lot of like platinums, but like the one couple of like the biggest packages that I sold, it was like this one mom last summer. Remember, it was like a tougher day. Not tougher, honestly. I was maybe sitting on like 75 units by the end of the day. And there was like this house that I'd been to a couple times, but I'd always caught the kids there, not the mom. And I went back one time and the mom had seen me on Facebook, and I went at like 8 p.m. and it was pretty dark. And she was like, oh my God. Yeah. She like, she was really nice mom at the door, really good energy.
Love it.
Yeah, just love. Oh, it's so great. Especially after like a day where you're like, oh, this has not been the easiest day. It's just so refreshing to run into a really positive mom like that. And we talked, and she was a talkative mom, like really talkative, almost too much sometimes. But, you know, we sat down and she had 5 kids ranging from ages 3 to 18. And it was like, it was like crazy.
Oh, yes.
And it was like, I was like,
or as Bill Zizzy would say, cool.
Yeah. And she was a preschool teacher at this very prestigious preschool that people had their kids going to. And she was a Spanish teacher there. And a lot of people knew her. And she was just a great teacher. Everyone loved her. And I just remember sitting down with her, you know, it was like, she was really interested in what I was doing. Then she would talk on a long tangent, and then, you know, I'd refocus her, and then she would just love it. And she ended up buying, like, I was on like, you know, 75 units, and I was just trying to hit this goal. And then she bought like 100-unit package. It was like all the kids' books, all the black books, CEA. And it was just like, and the websites too. And it was like ended like super late. So I hit good hours too because of that sit down. And it was just like a really nice feeling, because I was like, wow, I thought this day was not going to be the best. I thought it was going to be kind of shit. And then it was just like, just keep going. You'll run into the right people at the right time. And it was like, boom, biggest customer I've ever had. Last person of the day on a tough day.
Oh, yeah. That's like you come home and you feel like you come from battle.
Yeah.
But it takes all day to have a good day, and
it does
that for sure.
Yep. And then the other story I wrote down.
I'm looking forward to this.
It was my first summer. It was so uncomfortable because it was like, so I was just my first summer. I was still fairly new. It was probably somewhere middle in the summer, and then. Just approached the store, and it was like this grandpa answered the door, and he was like, oh, we don't have kids. And I was like, yeah, I can tell. And it was just, you know, we were talking, he was a nice guy. And then he was like, you know, my wife might be interested for the grandkids, because the grandkids came over. And so I had never really sold to grandparents before, but I knew it was possible. So I was, you know, I like sat down with her, and we were sitting inside, and she like got me a drink. She was just really nice. And then she's like really nice to me, and she very obviously started to hit on me, where it was like, she was just like, as she gave me the drink, she would like come and she like put her hand on my shoulder and just like, and then was just saying nice things.
Hang on. Let me I gotta interrupt you here. Hold on. When you say grandma, because here's the deal, we've sold books, so grandmas can be 37 or she was 40, or grandmas could be 90. So
she was not super old. I'd say she was probably like upper 50s, lower 60s, and she wasn't that bad looking. Like, she was, you know, she wasn't like, but I was just like, the reason I was uncomfortable with it
are real,
because her husband was right there at the table, and I could visibly see him like staring at her like, what is she doing? And I was like, oh my God, I hate this. And I can't remember what she said, but I remember her saying something where it was just like, I could tell it like definitely made her husband uncomfortable. And I was like, yeah, sorry, I gotta go catch the next family. You know, I like left somehow, but I just remember it was like so bad because I could tell the guy was like uncomfortable with it. So I was uncomfortable with it. I was like, I did not ask for this. I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry she's doing this. But it was just like, yeah, it was like,
you poor first year. I would have got her to buy and then left. Come on.
She was gonna buy a cookbook until like shipping was like $15, and I didn't realize I could take that off if I wanted to, and so she didn't. Yeah.
She wanted you to come back at the end of the summer when Mr. wasn't home.
Yeah, when he wasn't
I'll
home.
show you how to use a cookbook. you poor child. You got hit on. Book goggles are real if you're like,
yeah. Oh yeah. I remember that actually made me think of another story.
Let's hear it.
Because I'm trying to think of like other stories too, but like this one, it was my first summer also. I just remember, you know, like mid to late summer, it was just like, you know, I'd heard of book goggles, and then I just approached this house, and I knew they had a high schooler there. And I knew like the neighbor told me she was a senior in high school, and it was just like none of the parents were home, but she answered the door. And I just remember like she answered the door, and it was like the most beautiful girl I had ever seen in my entire life. I was like blown away, and I was just like,
first summer. I mean, and you're 18, right? And she's gonna be 18.
I was 19. Yeah, you know, and like, I was just like, yeah. I just remember it because then, like, you know, I was like, "Are your parents here?" And she was like, "No, they're not home." I was like, "They're usually home like the evenings." And I was like, "Yeah, I'll come back." And then I got in my car, and I just let out like not like a scream, but I was like, "Oh my God!" I was just like,
yeah, it's
like,
crazy.
That's the most beautiful girl I've seen in my life.
Yeah, I understand, and I'll respect, you know, like if everybody's beautiful in their own way.
Yeah.
But I remember that tour, my first summer. Oh my gosh, and it was in a week where I was like really jamming, so I could feel like I can't miss. Right, I'm like just like selling books, and this girl, I still remember, black t-shirt, and 2012, so like the jean shorts were still cool with the pockets that hung out from underneath.
Yeah,
right. She must have been tanning, and I mean, again, I'm jamming. So at this point, when someone opens the door, you're so confident when you're in flow that you're like, "Hey, the mom of the house." Like, you made it very clear she's not the mom of the house, right? But I'm just like, I was speechless. I was like, I must have looked like such an idiot. I'm like, I remember I must have said something. I think I said something like, "Wow, I'm selling books." She's like, "Oh yeah, my parents aren't here." And I was like, "Okay, I'll just okay." And I just turned around and like walked away. I got in the car and I'm like, "Oh my God, this is paralyzed. This is crazy, just crazy, dude." I understand. I imagine it's like everybody has that experience at least once where you're like, "This is the most beautiful person I've ever seen in my life." Because just statistically speaking, you're knocking on so many doors. Like at some point, you're gonna knock on one, and it's like, you know what I'm saying? It's crazy. It's hard, and it's again in book goggles. On top of that, or it's just hard.
It does.
People don't. Some person that didn't sell books is listening to this going, "Oh my God, be professional." And you're like, "No, dude, I don't."
Yeah.
You're just not prepared. You're just not prepared for what happens when that happens. It's kind of crazy. So
that reminded me of my first summer, my first store too. It was kind of, I mean, I know everyone's had a similar first store story where it's like, you know, you forget your sales talk, but like just remember knocking at like 7:59 on this trailer in the country, and it was like no one answered. I was like, all right, I'm supposed to knock one more time. Or the dogs were barking, and I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna wake them up. And then she came to the door in like a robe, and completely forgot what I was supposed to say. Totally. Yep. She was like, "What's up?" And I was like, you know, I'm Jacob. I'm selling books." Or no, I didn't say that. I was like, "Oh, sorry. Did I wake you up?" She was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Oh, okay. I'll let you get back to it then." And she was like, "Well, what are you doing?" And it was funny because I was like, I was just so scared of upsetting people at that point in my life. You know, I was like, I got to learn a lot about not caring what people thought about me that summer. That's for sure. But then I was like, yeah, I'm selling books. She was like, I don't have kids. I was like, all right, cool. Should I go to your neighbors?
Yeah, dude. The robe moms. That's another thing where you're like, it was. I mean, that was uncomfortable. You would knock on the door and they'd be in a robe, and you're like, Oh no, because it's like you can't really ask for a place to sit down because clearly it's like
not
like my go-to was always like, hey, do you want to sit on the porch? Because it's much easier to just sit on the porch and just try to sell them there.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't do that when they're in like a robe,
or like
and it's like 10 in the morning. It's like warm enough yet. You're like,
yeah.
And if I ask to come inside, you're probably not wearing anything, which is also awkward. It's just weird for everyone. And if dad's home and I'm talking to his wife
and
in the living room,
he's like,
and she's got a robe on, you're like, what is? You're like, it's so like unfortunate.
Or like there were times I would like approach, there'd be people. I got better at approaching people when they're in like their backyards or something, and like they're like this I didn't like when people were like in their pools. I wouldn't like to approach that, and then like sometimes I would, and it's like mom's in a bikini, and I'm like, oh, this is. I feel bad for coming in at this time. Like I feel like
it's just an uncomfortable situation.
It is
for sure. Like because or the worst. Here's like a really this sucks is. Like mom's in the pool, front pool, like out, elevated pool. She goes, "What are you doing?" Because you're kind of there, and you don't recognize what's happening until you like really get to the property. And she's like, "What are you doing?" You're like, "Oh, you're selling books." She's like, "Oh, okay." These are two scenarios that happen to me, and both of them are like rough. They go, and we've all had these. She goes, "Okay, yeah, let's just sit on the porch." And you're like, "Okay." And then like dad comes home from the store, as like so it's you. Mom outside, she's like just fresh out of the pool in a bikini, dad in a big truck, and you're in the country, so he probably owns guns, right? Pulls up, and you're like, well, now this is a problem. And especially if you've established rapport at this point, and she's like laughing a little bit at some of the jokes or whatever, and he has no idea about anything, sees a license plate from another state, and you're like, hey, Paul, like so tough to just maneuver that situation. Or two, this happened to me. This was my third summer in Pennsylvania. I'll never forget this. Same thing, except the kids were in the pool. Girl, maybe was a sophomore, junior in high school. Kid was like an 8th grader. And I mean, of course, they're all wearing their swimsuits. And the mom was like, all right, well, you guys take a look at this. I'll be back. I'll go just cut up some apples or cut up some watermelon. I'll be back. So she just leaves me, and it's me and some teenager in a bikini. And I'm like, this is odd. Like, I don't know what's happening. This is not. Why am I wearing? Like, why aren't you wearing clothes? You're outside. Like, that's cool. You can talk to us. I'm like, I really want to not be here right now. But you're kind of a pony because you're super nice, obviously. So, like, on any other night or any other day, this would have been a sale. But this is really weird. You know what I'm talking about? We've all had them.
Yep. It's just like. And also that reminds me of those kind of moms where it's like, they're like busy and they're doing stuff, but they're interested. And so they're like telling their kids, they're like, here, you come look at this. And then they go and do their own thing. I'm like, no, you need to be here too.
No, I need
you need to give me the money. Like, if you like these, it's like,
but also you got to get good at like discerning. And sometimes you'd be like, actually, mom, go ahead. And you like completely sell the kids. And then she'd come back and be like, so how much is it? You're like, oh, it's $900. She's like, okay. Like you could start at something that would happen to you.
You can tell. You learn how to read people.
Yeah, you learn that.
Like I remember this last summer, there was this mom, like family I sat down with. Mom spoke pretty much only Spanish, but the daughter spoke Spanish and English. So she was translating the whole time. And the daughter was so sold on them. So much to the point where like the last like 10 minutes of the sit down, it was just her daughter like convincing her mom to buy until she did.
Just closing her.
I was like, I can't, I'm not even doing anything. Business. Yeah, it was just like, she is literally like convincing, almost pressuring her mom to buy. And I'm like, I'm not doing any of this. This is not me. I don't like pressuring people. It's like, this is your daughter.
Yeah. But it's cool when you run into families like that. I had a mom that was like, I'll buy books if you take my daughter on a date. It was my first summer it was, how like in deliveries, you kind of get like a little gap and you're like, I might as well go knock a couple more times. Just like you kind of stop delivering for a little bit because before you go on your like second or third round, and you're like, I meant to catch this family for the longest time. So it was one of those end of the summer, knock on the door. The mom's like, I'll buy if you take my daughter on a date. And I was like, what was
she 18?
I mean, again, I'm 18, and she was like a senior in high school. So they were just going to buy the math books because she was going into her senior year. She was about to, I remember this clearly. It was math books. And at the time we didn't have the CEA, but we had the was a different thing, a Kaplan SAT, ACT prep course. And those were the two things that she was looking into. So just the math books and the SAT prep course. I didn't know enough about the AP honors to offer that, which I should have. But anyway, and she's like, I'll buy if you take my daughter on a date. And I was like, this was not taught in sales school. No, I couldn't. I mean, I was just like, I can't. Like, I think I said I would, but since I was in delivery week, I had the books with me. She bought them. I remember they bought for sure. I just don't remember how I got out of it. I don't remember what I said. And I was like, I can't.
I am super busy.
I'm literally supposed to be in my first day of school for my next year. Like, but then, like, and you know what? Bummer. She was cute, but and I was 18. You know, so it was like would have been a year older than her, but. I'm glad I didn't.
So, I mean, it could go bad quick. You never know. It's just,
Oh, yeah. Oh, it's not good.
Like bad for, I mean, if it's at the end of the summer, it's not like the worst, but like bad for PR.
Yeah. What was cool is when you had really good PR. I don't know if this happened to you, but you'd go at the grocery store and you'd like bump into the families that you'd already sold. And you're like, hey, what's up? You know, Callahan's, you know, I'll see you guys in August or whatever.
Yep.
Those are fun.
My first summer, I never had bad PR after my first summer. My first summer, it was like, I didn't have any crazy good PR. I didn't have bad PR for like the first part of it. And then, it was like, I can't remember. It was towards like the mid to end of the summer, probably week 7 or 8. I just like got approached by a dad, or like some people were just telling me like, they were kind of sketchy. They were calling the cops, and then like, I was sitting down with this one mom and I went into, we sat outside, but she was like, I want my husband to be here to make a decision. So I set an appointment to come back. And then I was like, do you have a bottle of water? Cause it was so fucking hot out. And then I was like, is it okay if I step inside your porch? Like it was a covered porch. I was like, is it okay if I step inside your porch just to cool down while you grab it? And she was like, yeah. And so I did. And then, got the bottle of water, left, drove a little bit down the street. I was, knocking. And then a dad pulls up in this big truck. And it was the husband of that mom. And because she had explained it to him, and I don't know if she was like really turned off by it, and she didn't like, she was like sketched out by me and just didn't show it, or if like he just interpreted it that way. And he said like, he was like, you need to leave. He was like, you need to get out of here. He was just like, the cops are looking for you. And he was like, and you need to know that I shoot first and ask questions later. And I was like, I'm not going back there. And it was just like, it was tough because like a couple days before that, I had a similar bad PR situation too. And then it was just like really tough. And he said the cops were looking for me. I was like, God, I hope so I could fucking clear this up. And
yeah, when you got nothing wrong going on. Yeah.
And so like I parked on the side of the road because I was just like, I was emotionally distraught at this point. I was like, why is this happening to me? I'm just trying to help people. Oh, the couple days before, it was a dad that like I was talking to the mom at the door. Dad pulled up while I was talking to the mom at the door, and he had like people had been taking pictures of me in my car saying that I had been robbing people, because some people had been getting robbed in that area, like their houses, and they had been.
See, that's what I mean by my unlucky, because it happens. Yeah,
and it was like, and then I parked on the side of the road after that second incident, and I just like I was crying, I was letting it out, and then. I was just like, I was actually waiting for a cop. I was like, please, I just want a cop to show up. Because I was like, I know he's probably called the cops that I was in this area. And then a cop showed up. And then I was like crying when the cop came up. And he was a really nice guy. And I explained the situation. He was like, hey, I know this is a really tough situation. He was like, let me just get your info so we can get it into the station. Know that you're legit so we can handle these calls. And then what ended up happening was we were talking more, and I was like, is it cool if I get like a picture with you so I can make a post on because I wasn't able to get a picture at the start of the summer with a cop. I was like, could I get a picture with you just to like post for credibility purposes? Like, it's not an endorsement. It's just that I've checked in with you guys and I'm doing this. And he was like, yeah. And then some random guy pulled on the side of the road for some reason to ask the cop something because he was wondering the speed limit on the road. And so he took the picture for us. It was like, me and the cop holding next to each other. I was holding the book, it wasn't an endorsement. And then I made this like long post. It was pretty much like, the whole gist of it was like, I know people have been spreading stuff that I've been like, that I was just explaining that I was a college kid from Colorado here doing an internship growing my skills, making money for college. You know, I was just trying to help people. I've helped so many families, and then like made that post with the picture of the cop. Then all these families that I had sold to and just like nice people that had talked to me were like coming in the comments. They were like, yeah, I told you guys, he's a nice kid. He's just a college kid, you know? And it was like 140 shares later, like 30,000 views. And then my PR was great after that. It was like, it was a prime example of like the obstacle is the way it was like the toughest moments lead to like the best times too.
Let's go.
Yeah, that was really nice.
Hell yeah, man.
And then I got really good at being proactive about my PR after that. The other summers,
you have to be now.
Oh yeah, I was great at it.
You're doing it wrong if you're not doing that.
Damn, I was great at it. My third summer, I was a badass with my PR. Like 80% of the people I knocked on knew who I was, so it was like quick nose or like, yeah, let's see what you got. Loved it. So fun.
So good.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, bro. Well, good stuff, man. This has been a fun one.
This is awesome. I appreciate
they're always
it,
fun ones, but
yeah,
let's be honest. They're always good. But hopefully people thought so too who are listening. I appreciate you being on here, and guys, if you're gonna want to get a hold of Jacob, you want to learn a little bit more, the links to his socials are gonna be also below in the description notes. Make sure you just go check them out or contact him that way. Stay tuned. This is episode 20. What were we at? 21 of season 203, but 21 of season 8. We're closing up. We're gonna have a really special guest for the end of the season, so stay tuned for that. And of course, season 9 opens with, as scheduled now, we have scheduled in to have our opening season 9 with the one and only Mr. Dan Moore. So
nice.
Keep an eye out for that. It'll be a lot of fun. So Jacob, thank you so much for being on here, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah,
hope you had fun.
I did, man. Thanks for having me. This was a
good time. Yeah. Sounds good. Guys, we'll catch you in the next episode. Thanks for listening. Bye, everybody.